Today we're going to be talking about dope cards and managing your target information on the clock. Hey shooters, this is Joe Loley from Precision Match Timer, and today we're going to be talking about dope cards and also managing your information about your various targets while you're on the clock. So let's start off with what a dope card is. Basically, it is information that you've written about your targets. It might be the location, which is important information, but usually it's information about what you need to dial on your turret, as well as what you may need to hold for wind. So that information is written on these little cards. That's the method that I use. Originally, like a lot of people, some people still do this, they use wrist coaches. So it's almost like a quarterback where you have your information written on your wrist, you're down on your rifle, and you need to get that information. You just look down at your wrist and then you can change your elevation, change your windage, whatever you need to do. Those were really popular when I first started shooting. And then people started putting them on the rifle themselves. Your eye doesn't have to go as far down to your wrist to look. It is kind of right there in front of you. So there's a number of different ways that you can put that information on your rifle. The one that I use on both of my match rifles is this one here from Hawk Hill. It's a little pricey, but this particular one mounts to your scope mount, and it can swing in and out, it can swing down, and then just also has a piece of Velcro on it that allows you to attach various things to it. This is my favorite way of doing it. As a backup, I always have this Coltac. It just is a little bungee that goes around your scope and then has a piece of Velcro that allows you to attach cards to it. You have these cards with a piece of Velcro and they just sit on there, and then you can see them. And you can attach them here, you can attach them farther up, whatever works for you. The first thing that I actually had was this one. This one's from X-Ring Armory, and it is mounts on your rail, and then it does allow some pivot as well, and it just has a little clear window that you can like drop business cards down into. And I would write my dope on it with a regular pen, just slide it down in there, and then I would have it, and it's, again, it can be pushed out of the way. This is a pretty good little system, and it just allows you to use a regular pen or a marker or whatever you want as well. Now, there's different things that you can actually attach to your dope card holder. One of which I don't have and I've never used. It's an electronic version, which is the Kestrel HUD, heads-up display. It transfers information back and forth from your Kestrel to a display, and will give you lots of information that you could use. It's kind of big and bulky. That's why I haven't really used it. There's also ways that you can go to some Garmin watches or displays on your wrist. Again, not what I prefer. Another thing that's semi-electronic, but it's not, is these eDope. The eDope cards allow a transfer from your phone to the eDope card, and you can transfer it out of GeoBallistics, the eDope app, or even the Kestrel app, I believe, does it now too. And it will allow you to put different information on there. It is not a battery or anything. It's almost more like an Etch-a-Sketch, where it is transferring that information onto this card. It's not bad, but it is all black and white. Very easy to read. You can always read it because it's not your own handwriting. But I've gone away from this just because it is not different colors. So those are the different ways that you can do it. Now we'll talk a little bit about how I do it. So for me, I'm a big fan of these plastic cards, and they're pretty inexpensive to get. And what I do is I write down my information ahead of time. So let's talk about that first. Match prep. So when you go to a match, like a 2-day match or even a 1-day match, if you were there the day before on the Friday, you may get your match booklet ahead of time. They may email them out ahead of time. Lots of different ways that they handle it. You may only get it the morning of the match. But either way, the first thing I do, sitting back in a hotel room or wherever I am, is to take the information from the match booklet and put it in my Kestrel. And I do that in using target cards. And then I can refer to them while I'm shooting, change cards, and that has my information for the various stages. I can go over that in another video if people decide they want to learn more about target cards, but it's a great way to look up your information and not have to enter every target in during the match. So what I do ahead of time is I put the stage number at the bottom, the target number, and the distance. And then any information that I may have about the stage itself, 5 positions, 2 shots each, things like that. And then when I get up to the stage, I'll pull out my Kestrel, get my environmentals right, and then I will enter what my elevation is. Then I'll put it in my target card holder. I like to use these holders that I created, and I print these out. These are not something I sell yet. I may eventually, but it allows you to put them in and not have Velcro on the back of the card. There's Velcro on the back of the holder. And what's nice about that is then you can switch out your cards very easily. You want to put a different card in, you can write on both sides of the card, things like that. But I only have one distance that I'm shooting. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put it on my data card holder. And then I am going to come up and dial my elevation to what I'm shooting for that stage. Most of the time, this is going to be sitting out of the way, and I'm not even going to look at it. It is there just in case I see some kind of problem while I'm shooting. Did I dial the right elevation? I flip out, I look at it, and I can get my information and make sure that it is correct. So it's just a backup at that point. If you have 2 targets, I may have one that looks more like this. And then it's going to be written in 2 different colors. So I typically use 3 colors. I use blue, then red, then green, always. That's my order, blue, red, green. If I have to go with more targets, it'll be blue, red, green, blue, red. So I just repeat the order again. And in this case, if there's 2, I may be dialing that, so I will write down what the elevations are, and I will also write what the holdover is, just in case you get to your 4th or 5th position and you're running out of time, you're taking too long. You may have to start holding over in the middle of it, and then you still have that information to refer back to. So that's another thing to do. And then you can see on this one, I may have 3 different targets, distances that I have to do, and then I will take my markers and I will write them down. Let's see, this is 0.6, 1.7, 4.1. I could also write holdovers in there if I needed to, but I then write that information on the card. And then the bottom, you can also see that it shows the shooting order. And I write those with the different colors so that it's easier for me to find out which one I'm shooting at. So then that information is put on the target card holder and flipped out. Now, the other thing that you may have is something like a troop line, where you have a lot more information, you have more wind holds and things like that. So I have this larger card that I made up, and it is it's got enough room for 5 targets on it. Wind calls, multiple wind calls, 3 different columns for wind, and then a larger holder, just like my smaller one, and it will slide in there, and then it can be put on there and swung out in order to, you know, do something like a troop line. There's a lot more information on there. Some of my friends call this the billboard because it is a large card. It's actually a 3x5 card, so if you want to do something like an index card, that would fit on there as well. And actually you can just take a little alligator clip or something and put a 3x5 card and just clip it onto your data card holder. That's another option that you can do instead of having something custom like this. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to offer these for sale. I may offer these 2 sizes for sale, but for now, there's lots of other ways that you can accomplish the same means. All right, so some people will take these cards and they'll put a piece of masking tape on it, and then they can write on it with marker or pen or whatever, and then use it on their data card. Now, I tend to use markers. I like that better. Dry erase markers really don't work. You can, if you just rub them, you know, you're going to lose all your information. So I went to wet erase for quite a while. The problem you run into there is, even though they don't smudge, if you do have a rainstorm pop up, then it's going to be useless and you're going to lose your data. And I have had that happen at a match. So I instead switched over to permanent markers or Sharpies, and they work great. The ones I am currently using are these clickable ones, which work great because you don't have caps that you're always fumbling around with. So if I pull one of these out, I can use it, and I can do that all one-handed rather than taking a cap on and off. So I've been pretty happy with these, and I think I'm going to continue to use those for now. So now that we have our information written on the card, I'm going to place the card on the card holder, and then I'm going to take that data. I got that data, remember, from my Kestrel, put it on my card. Then I'm going to take these same Sharpies and I'm going to mark my turret. So on my turret, I am using the IDTS ballistic tape. It is just a white sticker that gets put on your elevation turret and allows you to then use a marker, wet erase if you want, or I use these Sharpies, and mark you know, the spot on the turret that you want to turn to. So instead of having, you know, 2.7, you have a red line, and you just turn to that line. It's a lot easier than trying to look at your card and say 2.7, let's see, that's 2.5, 0.7. You just go to the red line. It's a lot faster. And I mark them in the same color sequence as I do on my card, so that I always know which one is coming up next. So then I will mark these. Then the other thing that I do is I have this this other thing I designed, which is it's a throw lever, throw knob for the parallax. So when I am changing my elevation on my turret, I am doing so with my bolt hand. So I only want to use one hand. This one's already off running the bolt. I'm going to change my elevation, and I'm going to change my parallax, but my parallax is on my left side. So I just made this so I can grab it really easy, but there is also a white section on it that I can then take and ahead of time, when I'm figuring out my parallax before the stage starts, I can actually mark different parallaxes that I can turn to with the different colors depending on the target. And you know, I don't get to use that all the time. Sometimes there's not enough time to change that a lot. With rimfire, parallax is even more important, so is sometimes needed, but it's just something I can do if I really need it. It's much easier to turn to a line than it is to just turn the parallax knob until it comes into focus the right way. So it's a lot faster than doing that, and it's worked pretty well for me. Again, not something I offer yet, although I have figured out a couple of designs for a couple different different scopes. So I may offer that in the future, but as of now, I do not. But you gotta have your information on your dope card and on your ballistic tape marked. A lot of times I don't need to refer to the dope card, and just like with a single target, I don't need to, but there are times when I've had issues. I have mismarked my ballistic tape before, where I wanted to be at 2.5 and I marked 1.5. You know, you shoot and all of a sudden you realize something's off. You at least have your dope card to refer back to and see, oh, that's not where I'm supposed to be, and you can fix it. So that's an important thing to have. The dope card is often a backup, although there are some orders that you have on there, especially with rimfire. We're getting into all these memorization games of targets and shooting them in weird orders. So having that written on your dope card also helps a lot as well. All right, and lastly, what happens when you have Sharpie written on these things? You have to get rid of it. So you have to get ready for your next stage. I have created just this little spray bottle. It's got alcohol in it, just some isopropyl alcohol, and I've taped on this piece of rag. And what I can do is spray it onto the rag, and then I can erase any marks that are on my turret. And then I can, if I need to, also make any corrections to my dope cards that I may have. And then that gets put back together again, rolled up. I tend not to reuse the cards. I try to use, make as many of them as I can ahead of time. And then I just put everything, all my stuff, all my markers, all my different cards, everything is gonna go inside of my bag along with my alcohol. And then that, keeps everything together in a little zip up bag, and then I can have that information, that equipment readily available whenever I need it. So it's a good system for me, and maybe it could work for you. All right, so that's what I got about dope cards and the ballistic tape and anything else you need for data for shooting on the clock. I hope that helps explain how I handle it and some other ways that you could possibly do it yourself. So otherwise, I'll see you out on the range.